What's up, everybody? I'm out here at the Aquarium Coop. Been screwing around a bit today. Look at that. Is it purling? or is it or is it false purling? Been messing with the system today a little bit, getting some things fixed, fixing up a couple of things, making sure we got the water flow correct. Just check this out. You can go wild if you want, but you got to turn it down. You got to get that flow correct. Happy to say a bunch of plants came in today, just out here hanging around. If you guys didn't see a video, I posted a video about this plant right here, Bacopa caroliniana. So you could actually get it from the co-op if you like. A lot of stuff landed because Corey stole everything. So I came up here to help mess with some of the systems, plumb in some of the stuff. And some people were asking yesterday about the auto doser. And the one that I recommended is the 2-stage version of that one right there. That one's dosing easy green and easy iron into this system. And we do some GH and some KH and a couple other things, but keep it simple, run those Fluval lights. And yeah, this is the same lights that I run in my fish room, is these Fluval 3.0s. But really fun system to be messing around with. These are like 40-gallon breeders, so gives you an idea of just how many pots of plants and stuff. And but I'm super lucky to come up here and be able to help out and find Nerite snails, drop them back in there. Sometimes they get up on the upper lip up here. I don't have Nerite snails in my tanks personally because, and of course we already kind of cleaned them all off, but they leave these little calcium deposits. That's actually their eggs that they leave. And to me, they drive me nuts in my tanks. I love Nerite snails. I wanna get a pond going at my place soon so that I can, have a little greenhouse set up that's going to be built at some point in time. I don't know when that's going to happen, but I want to have Nerite snails at my place. That's the big jealousy thing. Every time I come up here, I get to mess around with these Nerite snails, and they always make me happy. But of course, I have. Of course, I don't have one here. I had found one, but of course, I have ram's horn snails and Malaysian trumpet snails. Those are definitely my go-to. I breed them as much as possible, 100%. I'm constantly breeding those, especially because I use them as a puffer food for the Shouted Denny puffer, which I got from Preston John. So if if he pops up, he might pop up in the chat. You know what I'm saying? So. Eurobeth is asking, will the fish eat the eggs? No, they won't. I've never seen a fish to eat the eggs. You might get lucky with a bristlenose or something, might sit on there and chew on it, but I've always had to manually remove it. The easiest way to do it in my tanks was always to add a new piece of driftwood. That sort of triggers the Nerites to go there and lay their eggs on it. They really like to lay their eggs on driftwood, which makes it's pretty difficult for me because if that's the case, I can't really clean all the crazy amounts of driftwood that I have in there on a regular basis. Let me see. So I found them to be more care than personally I want to do in my aquascapes. So, but it's awesome in these tanks because they do a ton of work cruising around and just being awesome because they're totally rad. Let's see. Karen prefers mystery snails. Yeah, I got mystery snails too, so I guess that's a good point. I had forgotten that I got mystery snails too. Longhouse has been absent recently. How's the fish fam? Love all you weirdly great people. Well, I love you guys too. I hope you guys know that. You guys are my community. You guys, I try to do my best to help you guys out and let you guys know what's going on. Obviously, I wanted to let people know that they might have missed out on a lot of the plants. But one of the things I was talking about in the earlier stream, or some earlier posts like on Facebook and stuff, this is coral moss right here, and personally I want to buy some of them, but they're coming in really low supply, so the numbers are pretty low, and I think they only got like 30 something of these in, mainly because it's really slow growing, and obviously like putting it on the steel mesh and all that stuff is pretty labor intensive. But I am super stoked to see coral moss making a comeback, because this is one of my favorite mosses, just of all-time favorites. And Physidens is right in there also. You know, the Nobilis, Photanus, all that. Those are awesome also. You guys know I have my Christmas moss obsession, but this one is a lot of fun. This is a lot of fun to mess with. So I definitely, this is one that I would recommend to pretty much anybody, because it's in pretty high demand, and there just isn't that much of it. Tyler says, I noticed how he has 2 of the Fluval lights over the tank. Do you think that's because of the distance? Yeah, a big part of it is this huge distance right here. Like, this is a weird amount of space to have, because I think this is about altogether like 16 inches above. So, it's just a lot of the lights being dispersed. You can see how much light is coming towards me. I have the 48-inch version of these on my 120-gallon tank, and one of those is plenty. You might want to add a secondary one on a 120-gallon, by the way, which I think, how many liters is that? It's like 500 liters, right? So you might want 2 over, if you want to do some really highlight, like my 150-gallon has 2 of them over it. So yeah, I think there's 2 on here mainly because of this big amount of space. I think if you had the lights down, sitting on the top like you normally would, because as you guys can see, like, I can mess around in these tanks and like pull out pots. Like, that's what these tanks are for. They're for, converting plants and holding the plants and keeping them healthy and stuff. So there has to be 2 here because of this huge gap. So let's see what we got in the chat here. Let's see. Quinn Mallory's wondering about yellow leaves and holes in Anubias. Is a nitrate issue? Could be nitrates. Could be potassium. I think I would go a little more in depth in before I fully answer your question. But Easy Green. So you're dosing Easy Green and still have issues with some I picked up about a month ago. So I think I do have like kind of an extensive Anubias video I'm working on. So the Nana Petite, which is one of my favorite plants of all time. And I don't want to spoil the story and accidentally tell it, but one of my favorite plants. So right now, I kind of slowed down my production on the Anubias because I didn't want, or basically because it's just really time consuming to constantly be trimming it, re-gluing it, taking all that stuff out. So I was kind of just letting it do its thing for a little while. I wasn't dosing anything, I wasn't doing anything like that, and I did get basically a little bit of what you have happening. But remember that it takes a long time for Anubias to kind of recover from being in a bad situation. But one of the big things that changed was I switched over to the Fluval light, and I adjusted the light spectrum on it so that I'm basically only running about 30% of the light and mostly only red light on that tank, and it has upped the new growth and stuff like that. So sometimes, I would definitely think that like sometimes with Anubias you kind of run into problems because you're getting like too much light, too much flow, all that kind of stuff. So somebody mentioned that's the notification vibration from a notification, likely text. Yes, I get a lot of notifications on my phone all the time. So if and it's noisy in here. So you gotta keep in mind, like, it's super noisy in here. You know, it's got like fans running and dehumidifiers and all that kind of stuff. And I'm not mic'd up or anything like that, so sorry about the quality, but just sort of impromptu. Wanted to give a shout to you guys and answer a couple questions. Maybe you know, just kind of say hi. It's Thursday. Got done with work. Everything's all wrapped up, and just kind of want to talk to you guys and maybe answer some questions and stuff. But yeah, as far as that Anubias question goes, like, I would just continue to kind of fertilize and be really patient with it. So, like a plant like this, like Monte Carlo right here, Monte Carlo will let you know really fast, really quickly, really quickly if it's in a good environment or if it has a problem. You know, if there's something going on, you'll know really quickly. Anubias isn't really going to do that for you, and it's probably not going to it's not going to recover very quickly because it takes a long time to grow. So it's a really slow grower. So just stay consistent with it. You know, I think with Anubias, I would definitely be on the, like, oh, let me make sure that it's good for a month. Maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks. But, you know, my schedule for Anubias is make a change, let it go for a month, and then see what happens. There's definitely a lot of moisture in here, you guys. I'm moist as all get out. Let's see here. Amazon swords are innately slow growers. Not under the right conditions, but I always remind people that, like, let me find. Here's some Amazon sword right here. And of course I have to walk back to the light so you guys can check it out. There we go. So here's an Amazon sword that comes in potted, right? So it's just a standard Amazon sword. This isn't like the melon or red or, you know, any of the many varietals of this. You can see how small it is when it starts out and how trimmed out it is. It has a little bit of root, but when the Amazon sword gets going, is that it's going to end up with a gigantic root ball, and then it's going to grow crazy. So if you have a plant, you just converted it, like you just put it in a substrate, you know, you're going to take some time, and you'll probably be like 3 weeks, 4 weeks, you know, like, oh man, I don't know, maybe it died, maybe it's got a problem, maybe something wrong. But, you know, just be patient with that, and then all of a sudden the thing will go insane. But one of the things I remind people is to, you know, add a little bit of laterite, which normally we find in the fluorite red. That's the easiest available laterite source that you can kind of find. You know, you can just pop online and look for fluorite red, and then you'll be able to, you know, source that pretty readily. Add a little layer of that down there, and then remember, as it starts to grow, add some root tabs to it. I don't normally do Amazon swords, but I did get a couple of them came in super damaged, so I'll be planting those, and I'll show you guys, like, kind of how to do that. Maybe in the next, I don't know what the timeline is for that. There's a lot going on, and I'm staying busy. And as I mentioned yesterday in the live stream, I got a big project coming up that I can't tell you guys about yet, but there's a big project coming, and I will definitely keep you guys posted when that happens. Let's see. Ian says, because I have one that's consistently sending up new leaves, but the next one to it, there's one which doesn't seem to be progressing. Okay, now that makes a lot more sense. So if you have, like, down here, you see how closely these plants are together? Amazon sword, you want to have like 2 feet apart if you're going to have multiple in, or you're going to have to be adding in root tabs a lot. You're going to have to add in root tabs very often, and keep up on that to make sure that they're getting enough, because the root ball on these, when they're fully grown, when the root ball on these are fully grown, they can be 3 meters by 3 meters. That huge area is how much they will occupy in the ground. They do come from a floodplain area, so where they come from, they get flooded out. They get flooded out and pushed out, so their roots will really take over an aquarium big time. So, you know, you have to push root tabs on Amazon swords. I just wouldn't, I wouldn't recommend any other way. They will get nutrients in some of the other manners, but I would just always remember to add root tabs in there. So people asking if my hands are moist. Yeah, my hands are moist, man. What? They're dripping wet. Yeah, always. I would actually really enjoy a video like that, because that way to save dying plants, because that's something I always have a good deal with the plants that get. Yeah, so that's going to be the focus of that Amazon sword video, is that I'm trying to highlight some more damaged plants just to let people know, show you guys like what it takes. Obviously, it's going to take me a little while to make that video because I have to record all of the parts with bringing them back. But I always try to remind people, like, you could even just have a little piece of the tissue of a plant, and you can definitely nurse it back to health, bring it back, do that kind of stuff. And I'm also working on what's the word for that? There's a word for it. Hey, Katie, what's it called when you take a plant and you splice another plant to it? What's that called? That's not being stupid.
Like, what do you mean? Like, when you take a plant and you're making it,
like you
take, like, a baby from a plant and you turn it into a plant?
No, you take, like, a tomato plant, graft it. Grafting. I just remembered.
See, you talk it through.
Yeah, sometimes you gotta talk it through. Thanks, Dorkula! Yeah, so I'm gonna be doing some grafting on a very big cherry tree that we brought down. And I don't want to spoil it, but it's going to be a pretty cool project. I hope it works out. Maybe it'll be terrible. Maybe it'll be a huge disaster video, and I can be like, oh, how do you disaster a tree? Ah! You know, and then people will be like, oh, clickbait. And I'll agree with them. But hopefully it'll work out, and I'll be walking you guys through that and some of the garden videos and stuff. Vicky started some of the stuff for the garden video, so hopefully I can shoot one. We can shoot one tomorrow, and hopefully get that out soon, because it's like almost May, guys, so I should definitely get that out. I feel like I'm super late on the garden vlog, and I'm sorry about that, but that's just busy, guys. Everybody says grafting, and you guys are right 100%. Thank you. It just takes a while for you guys to be able to type in and get back. So thanks everybody for stopping by. I gotta go. Where's the